Thank you and welcome. So this is Lama Surya's first time on Australian soil, and so we're honoured to have him here in Melbourne. And also like to thank Kavisha and Matthew for sort of warming our hearts, getting us in a good space. And I met Surya, must be about 25 years ago now, in a closed retreat in France. And in a very short time we kind of struck it off pretty well. And over the years we've managed to sort of keep that connection sort of through a lot of our teachers and the great sort of gifts that were received and the blessings we received. And it's great honour and pleasure for me to have Surya here, and I hope that you will enjoy and be inspired by Surya's wisdom and his way he really opens up the teachings and makes them accessible to everybody, so that we can find the Buddha, find the awakened energy, find the love in our hearts. So I'd like to ask you to give a warm hand of welcoming to Lama Surya Das.
David Christensen of the Udiana Center, old friend. I have to look in here for the script that he gave me, because I can't say anything without just joking. It's nice to be here in Australia, although it's a little disorienting. After crossing the great ocean, and yet really nowhere to go and nothing different. And that's really my subject tonight, is living in the holy now and entirely now, based on my newest book, Buddha Standard Time, Awakening to the Infinite Possibilities of Now. So I'd like to begin with a little practical, experiential taste of the subject, with a little chant, a little guided non-meditation, and see how fully we can inhabit the here and now, which is in any case the only place we can ever be, and imbibe some of its delectable, nourishing essences. So please make yourself comfortable. We'll have a little quick guided meditation. Don't worry, it won't take too long. A little 1-minute meditation, instant meditation, what I like to call American meditation. So meditate as fast as you can. I bet you haven't heard that before. And I bow to the Buddha, the Buddhiness in your seat. Don't overlook her. Oh May the Buddha's blessings ever awaken and illumine our minds. May the Enlightened One's blessing and inspiration ever unfold in our good hearts. May the inconceivable blessing of enlightenment itself, a wakefulness itself, dispel the momentary illusion we've ever been separate, incomplete, or apart. Homage to the Buddha-ness within. May you all realize it and be benefited by it. For a better world and a better future be possible. Including all in our hearts and minds, opening into our hearts to include all our prayers and practices and sterling aspirations here tonight, right now, including all beings seen and unseen, human and otherwise, that may we all together awaken and complete the spiritual journey. One circle, one sangha, one mandala, one beloved community in natural great perfection. Now please, if you will, take a deep breath, inhaling deeply, feeling it, and exhaling and releasing totally. Again, inhaling deeply, filling up, filling it viscerally, somatically in your lower belly, Hari, navel chakra, and exhaling and emptying yourself, releasing totally. And again, one more last time. Come on, now let's really do it. Inhaling deeply, filling up, feeling it, energizing, harmonizing, somaticizing, and exhaling and releasing with a little gusto. And one more last time, I lied to you. Inhaling deeply, filling up, and exhaling. How sweet it is. Letting go. Letting go. Totally. Letting go means letting come and go, letting be. That's the secret. Letting be as it is. Just sitting, just breathing, just present and awareful, awakeful, mindful rather than mindlessly sleepwalking through life. Just sitting, natural body is Buddha's body, Nirmanakaya, perfect embodiment. Let it be. Relaxed and at ease, on the seat, on the spot, on the dot, just sitting. Second, just breathing. Natural breath is Buddha's breath. Sambodhakaya. Perfect energy, total flow. Just breathing. Just sitting, just breathing in the third pillar of natural meditation, nowness meditation. Just being as you already are. Nothing more to do, figure out or achieve, just being. Natural heart mind is Buddha heart mind, Dharmakaya, ultimate reality, the ultimate sphere of great completeness, the natural state, the now, as things left just as they are. Just sitting, just breathing, just being present and aware, totally here and now. Nowhere to go, nothing to get, no one to get anything. Will be impeded through the awareful, mindful, attentive. Pay attention, friends, it pays off. Aware of breathing while breathing in. Aware of exhaling while breathing out and letting everything else go by. All the flotsam and jetsam on the stream of consciousness without interference or manipulation, judgment or evaluation. Letting go means letting come and go, letting be as it is. This breath is if the only breath. This moment is if the only moment. Resting, luminous, senseless openness, incandescent presence, pure, undiluted attention, awareness, aware of awareness, non-dual or uncompartmentalized wholeness, totality, completeness. Natural mind is Buddha mind. Nowness awareness is the true, authentic Buddha within. One moment of total awareness is a moment of freedom and enlightenment. As the masters say. Enjoy the joy, peace, and harmony. Natural meditation. Nowness meditation. Wondrous, miraculous, yes. The mind wanders as it does, if the attention wavers, if distracted. Gently use the leash of your mindfulness to return the straying attention to the object of attention, the breathing, the sitting, the awareness itself, present awareness. Use the leash of your mindfulness and bring it back to the object of attention. Just sitting, just breathing, just being present and aware, mind to mind. Awareness, aware of itself, naked awareness, incandescent presence, total awareness, natural meditation, beyond meditation, just being. Jaja Sancha Kripache Magye Banagye Yuji Yeba Nyapa Medoyo Ngane Gandu Bewasho. May the light of enlightenment has arisen, may it blaze up and illumine all where it has not yet arisen, may be ignited and arise, illuminating the darkness of our way, bringing it all together to illumination, bliss, and nirvana peace. May we all together complete the journey of awakening. Tonight's subject is something that I chose because I think it's very important these days. Wherever I go around the world, at home in Massachusetts or my retreat center in Austin, Texas, and other places, and in public and in private, and yes, also in cyberspace, where you don't even have to be there to be there. People tell me, and you may hear yourself coming out of your own mouth, we don't have enough time to do all the things we want to do. Not enough time. I'm so behind. And I wonder, where did all the time go? We all have the same 24 hours a day that people used to have in our parents' and grandparents' generations, or centuries ago. But let's not be naive. On the other hand, things may be changing, and technological progress and other things, especially in this modern and postmodern world. But also, I wonder, our lifespans now are much longer than in other generations. So why do we feel like we have less time? What are we doing to ourselves, friends? And then also, we have all these modern technological marvels. All these time-saving, leisure-producing devices. The microwave oven. We don't have to cook a baked potato for 40 minutes anymore. We just push a button and poof, destroy a potato, eat a potato. Fast food, and instant coffee, and everything. We're getting instant coffee mind, I'm afraid. Not much quality, but it's fast. So I wonder, what are we doing to ourselves? And my thesis is, and I've thought about this a lot, and also it's congruent with the teachings of Dzogchen, the natural great perfection, or direct access, mystical teachings of Tibetan Buddhism, Dzogchen, the natural great completeness teachings. It's very congruent with this understanding that time is subjective, time and space are very relative, and so on, which has been recently discovered by Western science, also Einstein and so forth. But there's an ancient understanding of the relativity of time and space, etc. And I've been thinking that it's really not time that we lack, but it's focus, awareness, and priorities. And no one's taking our time. It's up to us how we spend it, what we give it to. And it's incumbent upon us, I believe, to take responsibility for that and be more master rather than victim of time, place, and circumstances and conditions. Not fool ourselves with the illusion that somebody's taking our time, our family, our mate, our kids, our job, our boss. What are we giving our time and energy to? What are we spending our time on? Not who's taking our money. What are we using it for or misusing it? Because time is life, is it not? What else is life but time? Time is life, and we're here for such a short time. I mean, short, long, time, life is very tenuous, very fleeting and ephemeral. And especially as we get older, we start to, if we're lucky enough to get older, we start to notice that. And time seems to go faster, doesn't it, than when we were kids? But time is so relative. Time is plastic, time is elastic. This is not just theoretical. Ask yourself, I ask you, ask yourself. When you're in pain, doesn't it seem like every second is an eternity when the dentist is drilling into your jaw? Or you're sick, or you have a migraine? And yet, when you're in pleasure, doesn't time go very, very, very fast? It's so elastic. And time is life. Time is like an endangered natural resource. And we haven't even noticed that. And yet, we all spend so much of our time unconsciously. We say we don't have enough time, and yet, I don't know about Australia, but in America, the average American is still watching 4 hours of TV a day. And that's beside the net surfing and all the other things, and the social media and all the other things that we do. So maybe we could use some of that time better. We can consider how to use that time better for our own ultimate purposes. Time is life. We kill time at our own peril. Killing time is deadening ourselves. And every moment we have the opportunity to be totally present and awakeful, awareful, living fully, authentically, as I believe we're meant to be. That's our birthright. Why be intentionally or semi-conscious, subconsciously distracting ourselves, trying to not be where we are, being inebriated, intoxicated, distracting ourselves, living in a small distance from our body, like James Joyce's character, Leopold Bloom. He lived in a small distance from his body. I mean, most of us, we live in our heads. That's as close as we get to being in our bodies. Dissociating. Driving in a car, thinking that about where we're going to be. Not even remember where we are. Not feeling the sensations in our body, our breath, what's coming up in our heart and mind. The poetry of every moment. Losing touch with this divine dance, this marvelous iridescence, this evanescent iridescence, this sparkling and bubbling of being. You know, it's not just the poets. Every breath is a poem, is a prayer. We're all artists creating our life. And yet we're out of touch with that. The muse is coming through all of us, and yet we think we're at the mercy of things. We're the victim of our story, our miserable childhood, or whatever story we tell ourselves. How we're helpless, how we're disempowered, how the people in charge, whoever they may be, the people in the, I don't know what the White House is called here, probably the greenhouse, are in charge. We'll blame them. You know, it's not what happens to us, but what we make of it. It makes all the difference. That's the secret of spiritual mastery. That's the secret of living here and now. Not being like a dead leaf that's blown before the winds, whatever way the winds are blowing, the karmic winds, the collective winds, whatever you want to call it, are blowing, just being blown away that way. But learning how to sail, how to navigate, we can choose better how to use that wind, even tack into the wind, tack upwind, use the power of the opponent, like in Aikido, Jiu-Jitsu, to flip them over. We can even tack upwind. We don't have to get blown away by whatever's happening. We can be free of circumstances and conditions. And not a simplistic way of thinking that we're free. Not just teenage rebellious independence, but autonomy. That's self-mastery. Recognizing interdependence, being autonomous within it. Being in this world but not of it. Resting at the center of the storm, if that's the way you're experiencing the storm. But finding the eye of the storm. The true eye. That's untouched by temporary weather, outer weather, and inner weather, the emotions. Inner weather, like the emotions, which is still external to our luminous core. Our true being. The more we turn the spotlight, the searchlight inward, and I hesitate to say that, it's way too dualistic. How about just looking deeper? Instead of looking outward, looking deeper. The more we sink our roots into the good earth of this miraculous moment, and are grateful and cherish and appreciate rather than take for granted what's been given, it's all mana from heaven. It's all mana from heaven as if coming down from above, if you look at it that way. As a Buddhist, we think of it more as it's all arising within. But it's not really even within. It's beyond within and without. From outside, it looks like there's an inside that we want to get into. From inside, there's no outside. There's no wall. There's no gate. like poet Rumi sang. Centuries ago, the Sufi poet Rumi. For so long, Lord, I was knocking to get in. Then I awoke. I've been knocking from inside all along. I've been knocking on the door trying to get in, but I've been knocking on the inside of the door. Lord. That's our situation, whether we would know it. So that's the meaning of enlightenment or wakefulness or heaven, nirvana. Recognizing who and what we truly are. Not trying to get somewhere else. Not always trying to get from here to there. And leaning forward into the future to where we're going to be and not being where we are. If we're not here now, I assure you, we won't be there then. There will be no rest. There will be no heaven. There will be no arrival point. We are conditioning ourselves to always be pushing it off further from us. The more we chase, the further it goes. Like drinking salt water, the more we drink, the thirstier we are. If we're not here now, we won't be there then. That's the magic of nowness awareness. This is the essence of true meditation practice. Beyond crossing our legs, crossing our hands, crossing our eyes, crossing our fingers and hoping to get enlightened. No, just being. Not always being in the egotistical, self-oriented strategy of trying to do, become, achieve, have, and get. Just being. That's natural meditation. That's non-meditation. That's nowness awareness. Now let me say something more radical. Of course, all this is in this book. I'm not going to read from the book. All of this is in this book, including exercises, how to practice these things from different points of view, like in all of my books. Nowness awareness is the ultimate therapy, the ultimate freedom. Listen up. You don't hear this very often. I found this to be true. You check it out. You tell me, don't tell me. Tell yourself whether it's true or not. Nowness awareness is the ultimate freedom, the therapy. When you're totally now, there is no past and no story, no selfing going on. There's no miserable childhood story of who did who and didn't do what they should have for me or to me. When you're totally now, there is no future to worry about, fantasize, plan, or get to. There's just the holy, radiant now. One of the most popular writers in America in the 50s and 60s when I was growing up, perhaps you've heard of him, was Jack Kerouac. He wrote On the Road. He was the original beatnik, the original hipster. He studied Buddhism a little. He helped popularize Buddhism as Buddhism has become popular in the West in the last 50 to 60 years, 70 years. He had a big mystical experience, an epiphany, a breakthrough in Mexico City. He wrote about it quite a bit. But famously, he called it, his experience, the golden eternity. He had an experience of the nowness that he labeled the golden eternity. That's a very graphic description. It's not bland or nothing. It's everything, and it's golden. It's radiant. It's the pearl beyond price. It's even more valuable than gold. The golden eternity. We call it the timeless time. In Tibetan, it's called Shicha in the Dzogchen tradition. Shicha, the fourth time, the fourth fraction. There's past, present, and future, the three times that Buddhism talks about, what Christian mystics call the changing times, horizontal, linear, ordinary, conventional time, going from past, present, to future, the river of time, the flow of time, the three times, past, present, and future, the changing times. All bisected every moment by the fourth fraction, the fourth time, the ascendant, deepest, timeless moment, the eternal now. And we live on that cross, on that point. Changing, and yet with an unchangeable true nature or essenceless essence that we can contact at any moment. Not just back in the golden days when Jesus, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Confucius, and the spiritual superheroes walked the earth. Not just in the future when the supposed coming Buddha, Maitreya, is going to come. I don't know, has word of him reached here yet to Australia? How he's coming, like Santa Claus maybe, I don't know when he gets to Australia. Maitreya, 7 feet tall, of course, male. How can they be gendered in the ultimate nature? But in the, organizations and institutions of this world, mostly patriarchal, male, 7 feet tall, because, of course, big is better, which I totally agree with. As every Tibetan Lama will tell you, and Lama David will corroborate, if you're taller, it's because of your many merits. They will all tell you that from the past lives. There is no Tibetan Lama that will not tell you that. And when you ask, I don't know about you, you're sitting there very quietly and demurely, like perfect angels and bodhisattvas, and just nodding your head and just joking. I hope not. But I'm the question man. My Lama Kala Rinpoche used to nickname me the ocean of questions. So I would always ask, what are you talking about? Why? What's so great about being tall? I mean, small is beautiful. That's a book. No, they explain. If you're taller, when you bow down fully on the ground, you cover more ground, so you get more merits. This is the old-fashioned thinking, verging on superstition. So let's look a little deeper. What are we really talking about? Are we waiting for Maitreya Buddha, whose name beautifully means loving kindness, love, Maitri, friendliness, love? But are we waiting for that? Are we waiting for some Messiah? How is this different than waiting for the Messiah coming? Of our Judeo-Christian religion, what's left of it, let's say. We have to usher in the kingdom ourselves. Be the ushers. Be the Messiah. Be the leaders, the enlightened leaders, the spiritual elders that this world needs to see, that we wish to be. Like Mahatma Gandhi said, we must become the changes we want to see in this world. Buddha Maitreya is gestating in each of us. I mean, at least in the young people, there's still some hope. So, in the Dzogchen tradition, we talk about the fourth time, the holy now, which bisects vertically every moment, not the changing times, but the timeless now, the holy now. And this is the moment of Dzogchen. This is the moment of the natural great perfection. This is the moment of spiritual practice. Every moment. Not waiting for the future, which somehow never comes. Have you noticed? Tomorrow never comes. It's always today somehow. Because it's the now, the changing times and the holy now. We think, usually we say so-and-so lives in the past. Somehow we don't say we do. It's always someone else. But we don't live in the past. Remembering the past is a function of awareness, of nowness awareness. This is the nature of mind. Planning for the future, fantasizing, whether it's good or not, I don't know, but it's a function of nowness awareness. We're not in the future fantasizing. We're fooling ourselves leaning forward into the moment. We're overlooking where we are, and we're dissociating. We're not being totally present and accounted for. We're out of our bodies. We're like off balance. We're going to fall off the horse. We have fallen off our center already. We're reaching out too much into grasping and resisting. I want, I don't want. And losing touch with oneness, with embracing, with fullness, with contentment. And peace, actually. Peace and flow, not stasis. Spirit is ecstatic, not static. Flow, and yet balance, harmony. We lose touch with that, with too much wanting and resistance or aversion. So coming back to the now is a great work. It's a great thing to do. I could talk about this in foreign languages like Tibetan or Sanskrit and make quotes from the scriptures. It might sound better, but I'm giving you the straight poop here. And it's good poop. It's good shit, as we say in Brooklyn. Brooklyn's in New York, in case you don't know. All the American Buddhists come from there. So many times when we get into the spiritual way, we think about where we're going to get and we lose touch of where we are. We think about what we're going to become, and we don't really awaken, recognize, discover, and uncover, and recover our best self, our true nature. The better angels of our true nature Abraham Lincoln called. That's what awakening means, to awaken to what we truly are. My own Lama heart teacher, the late Kalu Rinpoche, the Dalai Lama's yoga teacher, Kalu Rinpoche, who died in 1989 or 91, doesn't matter. The Darjeeling, his monastery, I happened to be there. He always used to quote this from the Hevajra Tantra, the lengthy diamond esoteric scripture, Hevajra Tantra. We are all Buddhas by nature. It's only temporary obscurations which veil that fact. That's the timeless, uncorruptible, not solid essence. Groundless of our being. We're all Buddhas, not Buddhists, God forbid. We're all Buddhas. We're all perfect and complete by nature. It's only adventitious obscurations which veil that fact temporarily. So our work is to recognize our true nature, which is here and now, ever always. Not wait till we get somewhere, till we study foreign languages, till we learn many philosophies, till we become a walking encyclopedia of religions. No. Why memorize all those things unless you're getting paid for it? I mean, if it's your job, that's great. But we need to find Buddha, or whatever we call it, in our backyard. And even that's too far away from where we are. In our kitchen sink. Need I say in our toilet bowl? In the nitty-gritty of everyday life, every moment. Otherwise, we never will. You can go to India, and I know people who have gone to India, they say there are no gurus there anymore. It's just a big mess. It depends what you're looking for, and also how long you stay there. And how you use your time. There's enough time for those who know how to use it. Life is long enough for those who know how to live. There's plenty of time. We have all the time in the world. It's up to us whether we use it or lose it, abuse it. Choice, intention, priorities. There's quality time and quantity of time. Is it really important that we live longer? How about how we live? And how much quality time we have left? Do we want to just prolong our existence forever on machines? As long as there are brain waves on the machine, we should keep breathing? Is that really what it's about? Meanwhile, we waste time, we squander time, we kill time, and then ourselves here in this life. Or we die with regrets. Oh, I should have spent more time with the kids, or the animals, or in nature. You know what people say, no one on their deathbed says, I wish I had spent more time at the office. So I think it's good to reflect on these things, friends, if you feel like it, if you have time. I mean, I know you're busy. I appreciate that you came here tonight. I was reflecting on my way here yesterday or tomorrow, whenever it was, flying here, of course, the international day. It might have been tomorrow. I was reflecting on, coming here. Well, I left on Tuesday from Boston, and I got here on Thursday. And I know it couldn't have been more than about 20 hours flying, but I don't know. And my partner, Debbie, at home, said, I said, have a nice weekend. And she said, it's only Wednesday here, Surya. Anyway, I was reflecting on these 16 and 17-hour plane marathons, how it's really not too long. Of course, it doesn't seem like it's too short. It's really not too long. It's depending on how I wanted to use it. I have so many things to do, and so many things that I love to do by myself, uninterrupted, without the phone ringing. You know what I'm talking about? Or the FedEx, or whatever you have here, global interrupter knocking on the door, or the texts coming in from the kids to tell me what they're eating at school for lunch. All the interruptions. I mean, in one way there's no interruption, but you know what I'm talking about. I love going to movies because for 2 hours I can focus and also have a nice nap. I mean, rest is sacred. You can read that in the Upanishads. Just like the Sabbath is sacred, a day of rest from ordinary work. Time for something deeper, perhaps, to emerge. So I think, this 16 or 17 hours, I actually got a lot of sleeping, meditating, reading, and movie watching done. It was great. It was like a 2-day vacation. I can't watch that many movies in a whole week. What fun! So it's a matter of how you use your time, and I want to exhort you to think about that. In this book, there are different kinds of exercises, including the kind of meditation and the nowness moment and the breath that we did here, but also some reflections, like how we use our time, what we consider quality time or just wasted time or have to do obligatory time, like your job or pay the bills or something, or delete the junk email. And then quality time, when you're most alive. I don't know, what example could we give? Like being with your grandchildren. Or your children sometimes. Teenagers, I don't know. In general, with your little children maybe. Or yourself. When are you the most present and accounted for effortlessly, in the flow, as Csikszentmihalyi calls it? In the zone, the sacred zone, as I like to call it. That's something to know for oneself. When you have free time, what do? You garden, you walk on the beach, or surf, or fish. I mean fish and throw them back, of course, catch and release. What do? What's your natural meditation? I think that's very important to find out. Like for me, I love being by water. I don't know, maybe it's because I'm an earth element, Capricorn. I love being by water. Any water makes me meditate, without meditating. I used to go to the ocean. I lived on Long Island in New York. What we did was we'd go to the beach and I surf and, water ski and swim and canoe and parasailing, anything. All sports all the time. And I used to, when I became a yogi and meditator, I used to sit on the beach and close my eyes and, try to go inward and struggle. Anybody here meditate? You know what I'm talking about? Try to concentrate. You're watching your breath. You're saying your mantra, whatever you think you're supposed to be doing. You're in the most beautiful place in the world, and yet you go in and you try and do something else. Oh, I have to concentrate and meditate so that the breath can just flow in and out by itself, and I won't be struggling. And one day I got so goddamn sick of this. I said, what am I doing here? I'm on the beach. I'm just going to enjoy it. I opened my eyes, and the waves did it for me. The waves were washing everything away. I wasn't even in the water, just sitting there. I stuck my leg out, You're not supposed to put your legs out towards the altar or the guru, but the ocean doesn't mind. It's just much more large-minded than any guru. And the waves do it for you. And then you watch the waves, without watching. What's to watch? It's white noise. It's white sight. What's to watch? And there's nothing to count, and it's so repetitive and rhythmic, but interesting in a funny way. And it's like white noise can help you go to sleep, And it just washes everything away. That's my natural meditation. And it's so much the same by a brook or a waterfall or a lake or a swimming pool. Sometimes I watch the kids at the pool. I don't know, my niece, my nephew, I have also, just like you, the whole entire catastrophe, like Zorba called it. Zorba the Buddha, you familiar? He called his life the entire catastrophe. With love and appreciation. I like to sit by the pool and keep an eye on the kids. Of course, mirrored sunglasses help so nobody knows what you're thinking. So you can turn your eyes back or whatever you do when you're meditating and just watch the pool and the light. It does it for me. I get double credit. One from Buddha and one from my niece for watching her kids. It's terrific. So I exhort you to find your way. Maybe it's gardening. Maybe kneeling in the sun is your higher form of worship and having your hands in the good earth. Rather than kneeling in some house of worship where they tell you all kinds of things from the pulpit. It may be fire and brimstone. It may be, misogynist. It may be backward. There's a lot of things coming from the front of the room these days that one might not subscribe to. But the sun and the earth, I think we can all relate to and subscribe to. Of course, not everybody is a lover of the outdoors, but you can find your way. One of my good friends is Sylvia Borstein. She's a psychologist, she's a grandmother, she's an insight meditation teacher, a loving kindness teacher, wonderful woman. Anybody know Sylvia and her works? You can find her on the web. She's written many books like, that's funny, you don't look Buddhist. Because she looks like a Jewish grandmother, which she is. She'd tell you she doesn't meditate anymore, she knits. She knits. She's not thinking about anything else except her grandchild that she's knitting some kind of scarf or hat for, and she's totally in like the love state. And the hours go by, and she's totally mindful, one of her favorite words, and loving. Wouldn't it be good if we each could find the time and energy and space to spend in that state of mind, doing whatever we love to do? That's our natural meditation. That's the nowness awareness. That's being in the zone. That's being in the flow. Well, you don't have to try to get into the flow, the Tao. It flows anyway. It always flows for us. You just have to find the stroke that gets us in harmony with that, so we're not fighting against the current, trying to get somewhere upstream. And then every day is a good day. Every moment is a perfect moment. As we say in Tibetan tradition, this is the perfect time. Then this is the perfect place. This is the perfect time, this moment. This is the perfect place, here and now. This is the perfect teaching or lesson or revelation. This is the perfect source or teacher or truth or Buddha. Everybody is Buddha. Everything is Buddha. And everything is Buddha's speech, Buddha's song, Buddha's truth. And fifth, so we have perfect time, perfect place, perfect lesson, perfect source. And the fifth one, the hardest of all, are you ready? The perfect student, the perfect receptacle. Who's ready for that? What? Me? No. That's the challenge of the great perfection teaching. To look in the mirror and to see something beautiful. Regardless of how you're feeling or thinking. You know, you just can't believe whatever you think these days. Joke! But it's very true. Everything is so subjective. And our moods are just like the sun and shadows on the mountain ranges, just changing all the time as things move along so unreliable. There's something deeper than our moods. You just can't believe whatever you think and feel, although those are valuable intelligence agents of the field around us. We can find the eye of the storm deep, let's say unmoved center, if you must, our balance point. The great peace that surpasses understanding, as Jesus called it, nirvanic peace, as Buddha called it, profound, luminous, uncomplicated, ever accessible, omnipresent. It's all here and now. What we seek by whatever name, God, heaven, nirvana, enlightenment, is here and now. The problem is we're usually elsewhere. Wandering thoughts past or present or future of who said what to whom and what I should have said. What we seek is right here. The problem is we're usually elsewhere. Wandering, distracted, dissociated, inebriated, having all kinds of so-called accidents. You know, we call it a car accident, but it's really just a car crash. There are no accidents. Everything has causes: inattention, mechanical failure, and so forth. So if we want to get our hands on the steering wheel of our lives, I think it's good to be more aware of this, more clear and conscious. Cultivate clarity, not just pray for it to come to us as if magically from above or from someone else. Cultivate clarity and presence of mind. Mindfulness is the buzzword today. Mindfulness stock is really rising, have you noticed? But it's worth investing in. What's the alternative? Mindlessness? Name one benefit of that. Mindfulness, alert presence of mind is something we can cultivate and realize. It's like blue jeans, good for every occasion. You can wear it to a wedding, you can ride horses or do construction work with it. So I could talk all night, but I'd like to open the floor to questions. Also, I know that you Aussies are really friendly, and I'd like to get to know you. And really, the best way to do this is a little laser coaching. So, if you have some questions or sharing, I don't know who's here, so I'd like to hear from you rather than just talking and filling the air with hot air. There's a lot to say about this. So I always like to offer my audiences, maybe you remember, those of you who are old enough, the Woody Allen movie. I know Woody Allen. The Woody Allen movie, everything you always want to know about sex, but we're afraid to ask, not you. I always say, everything you wanted to know about Dharma or spirituality or mysticism or Buddhism, but we're afraid to ask those very august patriarchs and ecclesiastical hierarchs. You can ask me. I probably went to the same college or summer camps and root for the same teams as you do. Like the Wallabies. Please, anything? The first one's free. Come on. Yes, sir. Do we have a walking mic, or can everybody hear? What do you think?
I'll have it down.
Maybe you can stand up.
Could you stand up, sir?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I guess the question I have is that if you are saying to us to consider to live in the now, be in the now, and be present, and so on, what then is the context of planning for the future?
Good question. Yes. Actually, when nobody was asking a question, I got a little, tweet in my ear, or maybe maybe I'm channeling, I don't know, somebody. Okay, I forget her name. Regina, is it? You know what I mean? The richest woman in yeah, maybe I'm channeling Regina. You never know what these, anybody can come through. That's the downside of being too open. Not channeling. I was going to say something about, if you don't have any question, I get a question, like the inner lawyer says, objection, if I live in the now, how will I, remember where I parked my car or plan for my children's college fund? Well, objection overruled. I studied law also, on television. Planning and remembering is a function of nowness awareness. And the more present and unpreoccupied with past and future you are, the better you can function in the now. Doesn't that make some sense? Like if you're driving and you're just driving and paying attention to the road, and theoretically, wouldn't you be more able to respond and to drive safely and get where you're going and not get lost and not hit the bump, not ram the person in front of you because you're thinking of other things. If you're really just paying attention, then if you're doing a million other things, maybe not a million, but a few thousand, which I don't have to list. You know what they are. Drinking the coffee and texting and arguing with the people in the back seat and trying to read a map and, shaving, whatever people do when they drive. Fixing the hair. All these things are on police video cameras. So the more present you are and attentive, the more focused, the better performance you have. And there's apparently there's a lot of strong modern scientific research data about this, including how multitasking, you get less done than just doing tasks discreetly, completely one by one. So even multitasking is a false efficiency. Not to mention being distracted, like I was saying, too much going on in the car while you're driving. We all know the downside of that. So I don't think you need to worry too much about, that if you're really here now for our instant meditation, which was 5 to 10 minutes, that you won't remember your name or where you live or where you parked your car. That doesn't usually happen. What can happen is you won't remember all of your problems and your history, and you start to get a little perspective or distance on those things. Of course they'll come back because that's our habit. They're deeply ingrained. But getting a little distance, just like a vacation. I don't know, in Australia, do you still have vacations? I heard that they got rid of public holidays for a few years. Is that true? I can't believe whatever you hear. You have 2 weeks or 3 weeks vacation, 6 weeks like in France? Yeah, right. So doesn't having a vacation refresh you and make you a better worker the rest of the year, more sane, and so on? So similarly, if you can let go of the past and future and just be in the now, it will vastly inform, renew, and reinvigorate when you come back into the changing times of past, present, and future, where it's very good to remember where you park the car, where you put your car keys, what's your name, and your, well, we don't remember phone numbers anymore because they're all on automatic dial, but the things you need to remember, the code to your cash card, or whatever you need to remember, your mate's birthday, you know, whatever you need to remember. But check it out, you see. It's a false fear, and we're always afraid of the unknown, and that's why we get stuck in our ruts. Let me be more aggressive. Now, this is not for you now, I'm on my own time. We all say we want to change. That's why we come to things like this. That's why we get involved in things like self-help, self-growth, growth work, spiritual path, journeying, vision quest, psychology, therapy, philosophy, so many things. Philosophy, love of truth, and how to live our life. That's why we get involved in those things. And we all say, many of us say, we're in a rut, I want to get out of my rut. But who's ready to really get out of their rut and leave the rut behind? Who's ready to leave that cozy smell? Oh, we got one here, volunteer. He's ready to leave that cozy, smelly, familiar rut behind. Not just pour a little spiritual sauce on top, or honey, maple syrup, whatever you have down here. And who's ready to and willing to face the unknown? And who's able, who knows how to do that and keep going? Who's ready, able, and willing to actually do that? Not just say, I want to change, I want to change. And carry all that, you know, smelly nest with us on the back. Buddha made a good point about this, even about what he called the Sudharma, the holy, noble, liberating teachings. The Sudharma, the sublime wisdom teachings that liberate us. He said, just because it's noble, holy, and liberating, remember it's like a raft to take us across the boiling ocean of suffering and confusion. When you get to the other shore, nirvana, make sure you leave the raft behind. Don't carry the raft on your back. So, are we really ready to leave our cozy nest and all the familiar behind? Are you, sir? Totally? So, when you think of that nest, what are you thinking about? Yeah. You're ready to leave behind, like what? Your job, your house, your what? Okay. Let me posit you're thinking about, yes. Well, then it's easy to renounce the world. Not, because to leave it behind means to leave behind more than the stuff. How about to leave behind your own story and your own ego? That I'm like this and like that because of so-and-so and so-and-so. Who's ready to leave behind all that shit? All of our hang-ups and the roast. We have a volunteer here. Good. You know, there's a lot more to leave behind to let go of than just the job. I mean, who wants to have a job if you don't have to have a job? And all the other stuff. But if we look deeper, if we turn the spotlight to search, I think we would look deeper. It gets a little subtler. You know, so peeling off the layers of the onion, layer by layer, until we get to the nut at the center. Or no nut. And you realize it's all just onion all the way down. You don't even have to peel. Questions? It's all just smelly, juicy, wonderful oniony. There's no nut. And there's no nut missing. Yes?
Hi, I've got a question about...
Speak up, please.
I've got a question about the idea of leaving things behind.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering, are you meaning by that your story becomes separate from you, or your story becomes...
No, you separate from you.
Because your story does occur,
Mm.
your history is real, so are you talking about not blaming the past?
Yes. I don't know if what's real exactly, but that's an interesting question. But yes, not blaming the past, not holding on to it so tightly. Just the middle way, so letting it be, rather than carrying it around with you. We're not talking about throwing away, we're talking about letting go means letting come and go. Letting be, not suppressing, repressing, and not indulging, being caught up in it, like can't stop thinking, going around chains of obsessive thinking. And our story is really that, selfing. It's not that we have a self, it's that we're constantly with the crazy glue of our concepts and memory, gathering together all of these beads of the moments of our experience and making them into a what we think is a wonderful mala or rosary or garland. That's what mala means, but it's really a noose. When we cut the string, there is no noose, there's no continuity, there's just beads, just moments. So when we're totally in the moment, there's no past that's conditioning us and no future. I use this sometimes in a very practical way. I know it's highly theoretical. I can see some of you understand that intuitively because you're deep practitioners. I see we have a Zen master right in front, maybe two. I can't tell if they're one, two, or none there. Are you Suil's old friend? Where's Suil's old friend?
No, she's not here.
Doesn't matter. So when I feel like I have a sneeze or an allergic reaction, generally you just sneeze and you have a good time sneezing, right? I mean, sneezing can be wonderful. Better than some other very highly touted experiences sometimes even. But sometimes I'm in a situation where I really don't want to sneeze. Like let's say I'm leading meditation and there's a mic here and I'm highly mic'd and it's going to blow everybody in the auditorium. Or I'm sitting, in a dais near, let's say, the Dalai Lama or some luminaries. And it's really not a good time for me to go on a sneezing jab. So I breathe and I hold my energy or something. I go into the center where there's no two to rub against each other. There's no movement of breath or inner energy. So it's not just holding your breath. You're with me? Sneeze is a result of irritation. Yes? Something moves against something else and irritates you. Like when a mosquito, is trying to bite you or something. There's an irritation and that makes the itch. So I stop the movement and then that because I'm so in the present, there's no movement. There's nothing scratching making me sneeze. And that really works. You can stop hiccuping that way too. But you have to be able to control, manage, or regulate your inner energy, not just your breath, but your prana, your attention, your mind, your inner energy, your prana, your cellular energy. So that's not about whether history is really true or not. We have such a selective history and memory anyway. I mean, yes, of course. I guess I was born in Brooklyn. My mother tells me that's my birth certificate. I mean, that's all fine, and that's not really a problem to me anyway, so I can leave that be. Yes, I remember it. One day I won't remember it. It doesn't change much. I'm not saying we'll have to be like an Alzheimer's person. I'm not saying that that's good. I'm just saying to balance our incredible entanglement with time and the treadmill of events. It's very healthy, happy, and holy, or holifying, to step off the treadmill of events for a moment. And just breathe free and easy. And we can do that anytime. This is one of the main exercises I talk about. Just any time of the day, just take a moment of mindfulness, a breath break, whatever you want to call it. Breathe, relax, and smile. I've had people like journalists on the internet write and say, "You are such a simpleton. What are you doing? How could that help?" I may be a simpleton, but I'm not the most uneducated, stupid one. There's something there. Breathe, relax, and smile. If you're too profound for that, make it more rich. Breathe, relax, center, focus, and smile. That only takes 5 seconds. You don't have to wait till the next day when you can meditate in the morning, or next Sunday when you have time, or next summer when you have a vacation, or go to a retreat or the country. You can do it in the middle of a busy meeting, a busy day. And then start again, let the fresh air of mindfulness revive you, revivify the corpse of natural presence and awareness. These breath breaks, these moments of mindfulness, perforate the solidity of a claustrophobic day. They let the fresh air of awareness blow through. And you do, for a moment, forget about the past and the future. And it comes back, don't worry. Now, we're all worried about this kind of, what if you're just in the present, you can be like Alzheimer's or whatever. Let me just ask you, I won't ask you, I don't want to put you on the spot, but everybody loves the big O. Isn't there, I don't mean Oprah, isn't that a moment of timelessness where you forget about past and future? Who's afraid of that? Nobody. I rest my case. Of course, the past and future, time immediately comes back. We start wondering when we're going to get it again. Or whatever. Did it last long enough? Or whatever. Because that's our insane, cyclical mind. The wheel of samsara, as we call it in Buddhism. The vicious cycle of conditioned mind. So hard, it's possible to step off the treadmill of that conditioning. We are so stuck, staggering forward on the treadmill of conditioning, under the weight, the burden of momentum of our conditioning. Staggering forward on the treadmill of conditioning, following our to-do list, under the conditioning, the burden of this habituation. You can step off for a moment. The world doesn't stop. Nobody's indispensable, as we all start to find out. We can certainly stop for 10 seconds now and then in the day, or a minute, or 5 minutes, or take 20 or 30 minutes in the morning or night to pray, to meditate, to go outside, to give blessings and thanks to the world, or whatever, however we conceive it. We all have the time, all the time in the world, except that's how we use it. And I want to remind you, when I said, folks, I think this is a radical, challenging, and extremely important thesis, that it's not time we lack, but priorities, focus, and awareness. And that nowness awareness is the ultimate freedom, the ultimate therapy. We don't have to wait till we have more time. We will never have more time. If we're not here now, we won't be there then. That's the nature of conditioning and habituation. You'll get to heaven and you won't, and you'll be wondering what's next. You won't even notice all the beautiful harp music, violin music, guitar music, like we had tonight. Questions, please. Yes, young lady. It's nice to see some young people here. Thank you for coming. God bless you.
That's okay.
It's okay. Thank you.
Can you just explain the relationship with thought processes and being in the now moment? So, like, if you're in the now moment, do the thought processes in your mind clear?
Good question.
Yeah.
First of all, there's nowhere you can be except in the now. Do you ever go anywhere else? Personally, just think about a moment.
Just in the mind, just being, when you go back to a memory or you worry about the future.
Right.
Yeah.
So where are these memories or worries that happening except in the nowness awareness, your present consciousness, something, whatever words you put on it, see what I'm saying? Yeah. So anyway, as I'm a meditation teacher, let's say, I'm old enough now to say meditation master, I think, I want to just mention something here that I think could be helpful and important, to realize we're not trying necessarily to have more or less thoughts, feelings, or perceptions. I mean, when you're doing relaxation work, you do try to calm and clear your mind, but just from the point of view of true, authentic, profound meditation, awareness of thoughts is meditation, not trying to have less thoughts. So now, aware of the thoughts in the now, that's meditation. Mindful of feelings is meditation, not changing your feelings. Mindful of physical sensations in the body is meditation. That's a heightened awareness. Being aware of whatever is, as it is, that's the point. That's clear seeing, that's meditative awareness. That's mindfulness rather than mindlessness. That helps us be clearer and have mindful anger management, like have enough mental space to think before we react, to choose how to respond, not just blindly react, blind reaction. But to make some mindfulness between stimulus and response. So we are aware of a thought, and then we can choose whether or not to follow it, build on it, or just to let it go. If we're meditating, just let it go. If we're working something out, then following it and not being distracted down other channels. Like you might hear something, but you choose to follow the thought because you're analyzing what's the best route to get to work. So you want to develop a good chain of deductive logic and reasoning. So thoughts are a great tool, but poor mastery problems with too much under its power. So I hope that's helpful. So to be aware of remembering, some people say, awareness masters say just note it, just be aware of it, just recognize it. You just say remembering. So you know what's happening. You don't go down and shoot with memory for 5 minutes and then come back to what you're doing. You know, like if you're a carpenter, I can't really see what you do, but you know, I'm going to try to read your aura, but you know, if you're carpentering and using power tools with the old-fashioned saw and hammer, what happens when your attention wavers? You have an accident. So even though you think of something, that's not the time to go down that chain of discursive thinking about how to cure cancer. I mean, if you can do that, maybe it's time to stop carpentering completely and spend all your time trying to cure cancer. We are looking for a cure. It's very important. But generally, we say the most important thing is to be doing what you're doing while you're doing it wholly. That's the secret of mastery and fulfillment in life. Of course, it's good to choose what you do and how and why and look into your motivation. But when you're doing that, then wholly and entirely be choosing and looking into your motivation, not being distracted by every sound or thought. So look into it, think about it. Good question, thank you. So it's not anti-intellectual, it's not about trying to become dumb or not think or not feel. You know, there are pills for that. There are bottles for that. It's about being more aware. Wisdom is cultivating wisdom brings a higher form of sanity and an uncommon common sense. And we find out how to live and how to fulfill our goals and ideals, and also how to raise our gaze, elevate our goals and ideals. I'm not telling you what they should be. I'm just saying, you know, your goals and ideals and how to fulfill them. What's the best route, path for you, not for me? Questions, please. Yes, well, we already heard from anybody else? Yes, Natalie.
Yeah, I was reading one of your books, as you know, and towards the end there was a quote there by one of your teachers, and when asked, his students asked him, you know, if somebody comes to me with a problem, what should I say? And the response was, I do not know, I do not need, and I do not want. Which is quite obviously counterintuitive very much to the Western society. So how important is just
It's very challenging.
not knowing?
Well, the reason, one interpretation of why some, like Zen masters, and some people talk about not knowing, a Christian mystic called it the cloud of unknowing, D.T. Suzuki called it a Zen teaching of no mind. It doesn't mean being dumb. It means direct perception, not running everything through your thoughts. So not letting knowledge interfere with your wisdom. Like when you know somebody so well, you take them for granted, you assume you know what they're going to do about everything, then you lose interest. That's a problem, right? On the other hand, if you could be really in the now, you wake up in the morning and you look at the person next to you in bed and you go, wow, like who's that? Who that? Rather than, not again. So, don't know means don't assume you know. So much of our knowledge is fallacious. You know, it's just wrong. Like we think we know who we are. You know, in your teens you have an identity crisis that goes on for I don't know what, 11 to 29. Then you start having a middle life crisis from about 29 to 45. And then it's the elder crisis. Is this all for the rest? I mean, who knows who they are besides your name and a few other things? What does it really know to know who we are? So we think we know who we are. So in a way, if you ask the inner self-inquiry, who am I don't know, maybe the truest answer we have. That's what it means not to know. Don't assume you know. So the opposite of knowing too much is kind of like a childlike wonderment. You're really open to intuiting what's there now. The way children are. Ooh, what's that? And mommy says, snake, dangerous, don't play. But that's okay. But that first moment of wonderment, like we've never seen it. Now, it's not that we all have to become childish. Jesus said you must become childlike, not childish. There's a difference. That wonderment, that's what not knowing means. What did you say? The Master said, don't know, don't want, don't have?
Yeah, I do not know, I do not need, I do not want.
Yeah, well, that he's a master. I guess he doesn't know, and he's able to live in emptiness or not knowing, rather than spending our whole time trying to think about what's the meaning of life, which is a kind of wheel-spinning question after a certain amount of decades. The meaning of life is found by living and what you invest in it, not just trying to figure out the question intellectually in college, or, after 5 coffees. Although that's fun at that stage. But later you might have other things to do, like take care of the sick children or something, not worry about the meaning of life. You'll know the meaning of life when your child needs you. In that moment it will be apparent to you. My friend was telling me at dinner how just being with his son on a trip was so wholesome and nourishing. And he forgot all about his own agendas. That's what I call the meaning of life. And the less I'm full of myself, the more room there is for God, Buddha, or other. That's the sense, common sense. I mean, it's a mystical saying, but it's also almost understandable. The less full of shit, full of myself I have, the more room there is for God, Buddha, or just the other. You might even be a better listener rather than just waiting to say what you're going to say, no matter what they're saying. Just waiting for your turn to say what you've already got prepackaged. So I don't know, I don't want, I don't understand. It's a very high state of contentment and simplicity. But it takes a while to arrive there. Right now we have wants, and I think it's a good thing to examine them and try to elevate our gaze. And for them, we want that for all, not just for us or our few loved ones. Widen our circle of loving with our wants, and raise the wants and desires to aspirations. And bring that into action. Questions? We're almost out of time. And is Kavisha still here? Or we can have some music. Do you want to play some on your friend?
Yeah.
Is it Kevin? Yeah. We're going to have a little more music, but any other questions first? Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is it possible to achieve the state you're alluding to through technique?
Yeah, sure.
But
you also have to go beyond technique,
Yeah. But how do you not get hooked on the technique?
Well, that's where practice comes in, and teaching, and checking it out, and seeing what the other masters have done. So you start to undo the habit of overdoing, including technique. That's why I mentioned before, cultivating wisdom. We develop wisdom, and then you go beyond wisdom or dualism or cultivation, beyond cultivation.
But you think the technique is necessary to do?
For most people, unless you're born that way. There are examples of people born that way. Can you think of any?
I think you've alluded to a few already.
Yeah, like J. Krishnamurti was supposed to be born that way. Anandamayi Ma, the saint of India, was supposed to be born that way, or got it when she was 12 or 8, or I don't know. There may be sudden awakeners, as we call it in Tibetan Buddhism, but that's very rare. So most of us, we cultivate and then outgrow, or we get to beyond cultivation. That's the theory. Yes. Because what's the opposite? Just trusting it's going to happen? Or reading in Ken Wilber that it's already? I mean, that's nice, but do you feel, are you still looking, or are you already? I mean, when is enough already? And nobody can take it away from you if it's enough for you. Oh, okay. I wish that for you. Buddha supposedly said, I don't know, I wasn't there, I don't remember, were any of you there? Buddha supposedly said, I am the awakened one. And not everybody believed it. Some people came and they laughed and they went away. Some people tried to harm him. That's life. But he was fine with that. And some people felt it and they tried to be like that too, and they tried to do what he did. That was his teaching. Anybody can become Buddha, not just only one begotten Son. By walking such a path, not by following me, worshiping me, by walking the Eightfold Path, by practicing ethical character development, mindful and meditation, and wisdom and love, the three enlightenment trainings. So that's the technique. And then you get to the point of no more technique, where you let go of the raft and everything is the path from which you've never been apart, but you didn't know it. So I like to think of it as like craft and art. First you have to master the craft, and then you sort of forget about the craft. As the art, the muse, starts to flow more freely, you get more free. Questions, please. Yes, ma'am.
Thinking about mastering the craft and meditating, and also I'm in a position where I'd like to work out a solution to a problem, and so I'm trying to master this craft that I'm...
The spiritual craft that you're talking about?
The meditation.
The meditation.
And then I'm hoping that some sort of wisdom will arise, that I can find a solution. A bit like Gandhi's decision to go for a salt march. It was a good solution. I want that sort of solution. And I don't know whether I'm thinking in my meditation I see a thought, and with that I see an image, and is that my solution or is that a thought? And that makes me dizzier and busier with this, and I just wondered...
That's a thought.
That's a thought, if I see a picture, right.
Well, it's not a thought, but it's a visual thought.
Yeah.
It's just a form, but it's not a solution necessarily.
No.
It's just, it's all level. It's like, just, you might see a color, or you might see a flash of light, or you might see a Buddha, but that's still just like an experience. That will fade, and it won't necessarily uproot or relieve all of your issues. I mean, it might be a good experience, it might be a fantastic experience, but it's still just a thought, just in the sense of it's temporary, it's not ultimately to be relied on. Unlike the principles of enlightened way, or enlightened living, the enlightened way, where you kind of being there while getting there every step of the way, not waiting to get there. Being there while getting there every step of the way, that's what I call it. Every step of the way to heaven is heaven. Being there, being here while getting there, not waiting.
I'm not waiting.
I know, but you're still not getting a solution, so you're hoping, expecting, toward a solution. So you're still waiting, postponing. Postponing.
I didn't know whether what I was seeing was the solution, like that movie, Line of Brian. Is that a sign?
Can you see it now? Yeah.
Like people.
Yeah, right. So that's kind of the joke here. So, in the sacred and very wise, profound mystical scriptures of India called the Vedas, in Vedanta, Vedanta, from the ancient Vedanta, let's call it modern, it says, just remember, it's not this, 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 neti. Which brings up the question, then what is it? And that's the wonderment. What the hell is it? Every moment. What is it? That's the childhood-like wonderment. That's a solution, a good one. And then beyond that, I mean, you don't go around saying that every minute. You might also say hello. But you say hello with wonderment, like not knowing what's going to come back, rather than wake up and there that other person. Good morning. Are you a little habituated, tarnished? impure perceptions, our projections and fabrications, rather than, wow, it's a whole, and just waking up is a miracle, not to mention that there's somebody to share it with. And they also may have transformed during the night, or whatever, with the boss when you go to work or you wait. Anyway, I don't know what kind of meditation you're doing, but I don't say practice makes perfect. That's a nice gradual way, and that's important. But I always say practice is perfect. We just do it. And then shit happens. It's good shit. Because it's a journey, but the journey beneath me is beneath our feet. So I think, it's a joyous path. Let's not take ourselves too seriously, otherwise it's not much fun. And joy is a very important part of the spiritual life. It's uplift. Spirit is uplift, is buoyant. It's not always Pollyanna-ish, everything is great. No, it also includes the whole storm and drum of life, the good and the bad. But we can deal with it better, and take it more lightly. And also, not feel so alone, empathize with others and feel what they're feeling and be part of the web of interbeing. Be connected, rather than so alienated and alone. Yes, young lady? Yes, you.
What is thought?
Thought?
What is thought?
Oh, I don't know. Look it up, Google it. Thoughts are the object of the mental consciousness. Thoughts are you're asking a Buddhist teacher, thoughts are the objects of the mental consciousness, just like sights are the forms of the visual consciousness, and sounds are the forms of the auditory consciousness.
What are they in itself?
They're nothing. They're ripples in the consciousness. They're bubbles in the sea of consciousness.
How do those ripples come and go?
You should look and tell me. How do they come and go in your mind?
They come from nowhere.
Speak up. This is good.
Yeah.
They come from nowhere. They go nowhere. They're almost nothing, and yet they're almost something. So there's 1,000 poems and songs about this. Because it's inexpressible. Reality is inexpressible by words. So people might say thoughts are empty, or thoughts are beautiful, or thoughts are your mind's way, your poems. But what are you really asking? Like, how do you relate to thoughts? How do they afflict you, or how do they adorn and nourish you?
Well, I look at my thoughts.
Okay. Can everybody hear her? She's saying good things. She looks at her thoughts as they arise from nowhere and nothing. I love being a megaphone.
But I'm curious and interested in terms of, my ways, they come and they go.
She's curious and interested in me, yes? And these thoughts come and go and they're very, what? Meaningless, transparent, what? Titillating? They're nothing. They're like nothing. They're not nothing. And yet, yeah. Well, that's why I always say, this great emptiness, Shunyata, the Buddhist told about, it's really something, ain't it? It ain't just nothing. Well, that's us.
Sorry?
Yes. Is he allowed to ask questions?
Sure.
Yes, Harry.
I believe so. I just wanted to ask you about something I've heard is that the Dalai Lama encouraged us to every year to go to somewhere we'd never been before. I thought that was a very interesting idea. I just wondered if you had something to say about that.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because I never heard him say that, so it's nice to hear some new,
I thought it was a great idea, but
yeah.
but
maybe he's not just talking about physically, but I don't know. I'm just giving my interpretation. I never heard him say that, so I didn't think about it. But yes, we always say that travel broadens the mind and also opens the heart and soul because you experience other things and other people and and not to mention pilgrimage and there are many forms of travel, not just mileage, and inner travel as well. Maybe learning something you haven't learned before, or doing something you haven't done before is also like travel.
well,
So he was probably talking about going different places, and then you experience different things and connect with or recognize the interconnectedness and similarities of us all. You know how it is when you see how the other people are, you realize they're not that different from us. They may look different, sound different, speak different, but mostly they're busy taking care of their family and where they live and trying to deal with their health and the world, right? Just like we are, even if you can't understand the word they're saying.
Well, I noticed particularly we spent a few months going around places we hadn't been before last year, and the things that worked best for me were the things that were spontaneous. And we did lots of things we planned, and all the things we didn't plan were amazing. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. I'll give you a copy for that. One of the great things about travel is, but this can be said about just waking up in the morning, plan to be surprised. Plan to be surprised by what you can't plan.
Great. Thank you.
But just as a spiritual comment, everything is spontaneous. Don't fool yourself that you can't plan or follow out a plan or stay with the person that you're committed to. You know, everything is spontaneous. So don't think you have to never commit yourself to anything, to be spontaneous. When you commit yourself to something, that's, where's that coming from? She just told us, from nothing. It's spontaneous. We're free every moment we choose what we're doing. Of course, it's not entirely conscious choice. There are many semi-conscious and half-conscious and unconscious motivations going on, but we can get anywhere from here. That's the inherent freedom of being. It's a beautiful thing. That's all the mystics agree about the perfect place, the perfect time, and all that. I can't remember her name, the great medieval English mystic woman. She sang, "This is all is well, and all things will be well in this, the best of all possible worlds." And that was a pretty shitty world that she lived in, but that was her state of grace, of beatitude. That's why she's remembered for 1,000 years. That's true too. When you look at your angelic child or grandchild, isn't that true? At that moment, you don't worry, you forget, I think in a healthy way, about so many of the troubles of the world. And then, later you can get back to trying to alleviate world hunger and all of the other things going on. But without those moments of beauty and sanity, life is almost impossible. And again, those are moments of nowness, of fullness, that are outside time. Maybe we'll end it. Yes, last question. You've been very patient. And then we invite some more divine music from Mr. and Mrs. Karma, Dharma, Kavisha. Yes, ma'am.
I understand about living in the present moment. Let's say somebody who is experiencing pain from cancer. Is pain part of experiencing the living moment, the nowness, or is the pain, how can you experience living in the present moment, experiencing the pain? Is that something separate?
Pain is a, yes, nowness awareness, of course, of sensory consciousness in the present moment. But how you deal with it is up to you. For example, I don't know about terrible, horrible chronic pain like cancer or chronic arthritis. I hear about things like that. And of course, there are also drugs and other things you can take which have their side effects, and we will have to decide what's the best way. But let me just talk about it from the awareness point of view. And Dr. John Kabat-Zinn has done a lot of research on this, about chronic pain management, mindfulness, and so on. If you really focus on a pain, again, it's very difficult to deal with chronic pain and burn pain, the horrible pain of burns and all. But in general, if we have a pain, like we're sitting there, let's say meditating, but it doesn't have to be meditating. You know, you feel a pain in your back or your knee or your head, and you immediately react and contract and get tense, and it sort of enhances the stress and the pain, probably. So there is another way to go. And that, you know, if you're just aware of it and with it and not resist it so much, you know, like you breathe into it, like, I shouldn't bring this up, but I have to, you know, breathing techniques for natural childbirth, so that you're concentrating on the breath and not on the pain. It can help a lot. And everybody knows about this. Of course, it's hard to do, but it takes a lot of attention and intention. But that's very possible. So it's not that the physical activity isn't there that's stimulating the sensors, but that the consciousness is not focused on it and not resisting and fighting against it. So there's a certain amount of buffer or less stress or irritation. And with lesser pain, which is most of our situation, if you breathe into it and just be aware of it, you might notice what you're calling pain is really not pain, but it's heat or throbbing or your foot falling asleep and you worrying about it falling off, and it's kind of extra. If you let go and let it be, you know, we're only sitting here for a few minutes, it's not going to fall off and become gangrenous. So, you know, that's how the mind starts to react, you know, a survival mechanism. Sort of protect yourself first and then see how much you need to protect yourself. So is that helpful? Of course, dealing with the big pains, the ongoing pains, is a huge question. And I'm not against drugs and chemical intervention for that. But you have to be careful because of the side effects. And, you know, sometimes the cure is worse than the disease. But with chronic pain, it's very hard to do anything else when you're in chronic pain. But I do think awareness is palliative, is curative. And if you're interested, look up John Kabat-Zinn and his work. It's a marvelous work, and there's a lot of medical research now behind it. And it's spreading in hospitals all over the world. For people with chronic pain, you know, firemen who have broken their back 5 times, and all kinds of other people like that. And not necessarily people who naturally take to meditation or yoga or spiritual matters, but they can really benefit by this mindfulness training to redirect their attention and how they relate to what's happening. So it's not what happens to you, but what you make of it that makes all the difference. That determines your experience, your karma, your character, your destiny. Some people have arisen like a phoenix from the ashes, like from Auschwitz, while others come out like burnt out, embittered cigar stumps, and understandably so. What is to make the difference? How can we be more like the phoenix and grow from the inner irritation, like grow a pearl inside from the inner irritation, instead of growing burnt out and embittered? There's a lot of virtue in adversity in that way. Not that we wish that in anybody, but the difficulties can be the greatest, the crises in our life can be the greatest, and losses can be the greatest catalyst for true growth and transformation. When our rug is pulled out from under us, we're forced to change and to grow. So let's end here. Thank you very much.